So how did then when you went to Atlanta, then how did you think about the, being a recording artist while you in college, or was it just
Definitely.
okay? Did you then
Yeah,
think
like,
about how did you get the deal and all that? Or in those early days, what was the thought?
well, definitely in the early days, you couldn't get too far without a record deal.
Mm,
And but it was my top priority. When I came to Atlanta, even above schooling, to some extent, I really wanted to start a group. And you know, the first day I got to the school, I put up a flyer saying that I'm looking for a DJ. And at that time, I decided to start rapping. So I was sort of
okay.
recreating myself in a sense. And I was looking for a DJ, and that was the first day. So yeah, I was definitely determined to try to do something cool in the Atlanta world. And before LaFace,
Yeah.
before Def Jam South was Arrested Development.
When did you get the name then? When did you think about the name of what the of Arrested Development and what it really meant?
You know, back in those days, I was motivated by groups like Fishbone or even Public Enemy, A Tribe Called Quest. They were very conceptual names, even De
Okay.
La Soul. And I wanted to have a name that sounded important and unique. And so a friend of mine, a white friend of mine, very good friend of mine named Shy Boy, had a rock group, a punk rock group called Arrested Development.
Oh,
And they ended up breaking up. And he said, man, we're broke up, we're done. And that's like, dude, can I use that name for something I'm trying to do? And he said, yeah. And that was it. I just used the name. And what it meant to us was basically Black people have been in a state of arrested development. And our music was the reminder of what we're fighting against, which is arrested development. We're fighting against that halted growth.
mm.
Start getting us to rise up, you know?
So by the time so if you think about the late '80s getting into the '90s, those music had we'd moved on slightly from Public Enemy and KRS One. There was a little bit. There's a different. We had West Coast talking. Little G, their gangster rap. Still saying the same sort of things, but in a very different vibe. Um, then we had the guys out of New York. I'm thinking about Nas
Yep.
and others having having the vibe, the music, gangster premiere. The music was changing, and not as hardcore as what Public Enemy and stuff were doing. And so our listening habits were changing, and then we had the New Jack Swing, so there was the party side of things. Did you then think, "Wow, have I come too late?" So what was your idea about how to get that message and form your music?
You know, for me, it was more of an issue of we need to have diversity in the messages in hip hop. It can't just be gang members and, selling drugs and,
Yeah.
strip clubs. It's got to be all of that because that's part of the Black experience in America, but it's got to be revolution. It's got to be spirituality. It's got to be elders and young people together. It's got to be men and women together. It's got to be talking about family and community and communal success and self-determination success. So these things were very needed. So to me, the lack of seeing it is what brought about more urgency to make it happen with us.
Okay. And then how did you then okay, so you got yourself okay, this is our music, we know what we're gonna do, we've got our lane. Then how do you go about looking for somebody who's gonna believe in that and say we'll give you a record deal because I don't know if we're gonna sell money on this, but I believe in the message.
Yeah, definitely was a process, going through a lot of fake people and people that were, just trying to use us or what have you. But finally, we ran across Michael Malden, who ironically is Jermaine Dupri's father,
Yeah,
and
okay, yeah, for Colombia.
yep, of Columbia Records. And
Yeah.
at that time, he wasn't with Columbia. He was just a manager, a striving manager trying to make it, And he loved us. He loved his son, of course. And so he started managing us, and he was managing his son.
Okay.
And at the time, his son put out Crisscross. And I
Oh,
think right before Crisscross dropped, Arrested Development dropped, our record. So he was the one that got us the record deal, well, at least connected us to the record label and got them to hear us and get interest in us. But I will say we got turned down a lot. I mean, all the record labels turned us down except for one, and we ended up going with that label. And I'm glad we did. They did a great job on that first record in particular. So yeah, it was a good look.
Yeah, I mean, as I said, that's I mean, because internationally, if most people didn't understand the message, they enjoyed the music. It felt a bit of jazz, a bit of storytelling, a bit of folk. It was very different and unique. So you got a lot of people not feeling guilty about anything, but just enjoying the song and the stuff. Did you have to change the music when with the label? Did they think, okay, we understand the message, but we need it to be a little bit softer, or was this was from Tennessee and all this? Was this how you envisioned it from day one, and it was like no change?
No change. Yeah, not at all. At that point in the hip hop industry, and in the relation to record labels, they were totally confused,
okay,
befuddled about how to put out hip hop and how to make it successful. So they relied 100% on us as artists to guide them as to how to market this. How do you get this to radio? How we would have marketing meetings, and the rest of development, especially me, was in those marketing meetings trying to guide them as to how to promote this music, because we knew the hip hop world. So at that time, they knew they wanted to make money from it, but they didn't know how to actually market it. They later would learn how to do hip hop, but unfortunately in the most degrading ways. And actually that was a downside for us as the people, and in my opinion, for hip hop in general. But but in that time period, it definitely was us guiding the ship.
So I mean, when you came out, because it was probably around the same time with Naughty by Nature, that type of sort of difference. And okay, did but how was it then for you, the business side of things? Because as I said, you really focused on the music side, but understanding here's a standard contract and all that stuff. Did you educate yourself on that well enough before you got involved?
No, not well enough. We had lawyers. Like, I went to the Art Institute of Atlanta, as I said, and our first lawyer that negotiated our first contract was one of my professors.
Okay.
He sucked at negotiating contracts. He sucked. So he gave us the worst deal. I would learn later that it was the worst deal, but at the time I thought that was shrewd of us, because he was our professor, but he didn't know nothing about actually signing the major label deals. Mind you, a lot of people in Atlanta weren't signing major label deals at the time. So, I'll give him that, but as a lawyer, he should have known better, but he didn't. And so, our agreement sucked. And not to mention, at this time, we're 18, 19, 20 years old and very young, very wet behind the ears as far as wisdom is concerned, especially regarding the music industry. So, it was a bunch of mistakes made and things of that nature.
Thanks for watching. Please remember to subscribe to the channel, but most importantly, to press the notification bell so that you can be notified when we do have a new interview. Loads to come, but thanks a lot for watching.
I begin to